Situation, and a lot is unknown at this hour, but here's what we do know. The incident happened around 2:45 p.m. Eastern. 80 people were on board the aircraft. Pearson Airport has said in a post on X that all passengers and all crew have been accounted for and emergency crews are responding. A local official tells MSNBC that 9 people have been injured. One is in critical condition and has been airlifted to a nearby trauma center. A child was also injured and taken by ambulance to a local hospital. This video shows passengers evacuating from the jet. The flight is operated by a regional subsidiary of Delta Airlines called Endeavour Airlines. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada is currently in charge of this investigation. Let's bring in my colleague, MSNBC host Ali Velshi, who also happens to be a pilot. He's been tracking this story for us. Also joining us, NTSB investigator, MSNBC aviation analyst Jeff Gazzetti will join us momentarily. Ali Velshi, I've been listening to you on the air with our friend and colleague, Katie Tur. Just reset for us what you believe to be the circumstances around this now flipped over upside down jet.
So this is a Delta feeder jet. It's not a mainline jet, but Minneapolis, as you know, is one of the major centers for Delta. Toronto is the major hub in Canada. It was on its way in. It was completely full. It's got 76 seats on that plane, two people in the cockpit, a pilot and a co-pilot, and 2 crew. So that was a full complement, which is typical of planes coming into Toronto. The issue is the weather in Toronto has been very bad. It's had 2 back-to-back storms, 3+ feet of snow on the ground. I mean, I've had family sending me pictures for the last several days of just snow, which Canadians don't do because they're used to snow. Plane came in, the landing speed's about 150 miles an hour, so think about that. Plane seems to get to the ground at 150 miles an hour. Now, if it flips over at 150 miles an hour, it probably wouldn't look the way it looks right now. It would probably be destroyed. So something happened. The pilots figured out something. The plane then seems to have flipped over. Now, what we don't see is landing gear, so we don't know whether the landing gear failed, the landing gear broke, the landing gear wasn't open, or could it be that the winds are very high? The plane could have caught some wind as it was landing. The snow, the banks along the runways have been cleared, but the banks along the runways have a lot of snow. So that sometimes happens. You hit some snow and then you go over, or snow blows onto the runway and becomes ice. The plane gets to the ground. Most people get off. There are 9 injured. Some of those injuries are supposedly to do with the weather, because it's minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit in Toronto. But the 2 who have been sent to hospital, one is a child by land ambulance. There are very, very good children's hospitals in Toronto. It's a children's hospital center, really, for Canada. The other one was medevac to a trauma center. Again, that's because Toronto is a very heavily trafficked city. It's got excellent trauma hospitals, but it would be more standard to put somebody on a helicopter and in 5 minutes be at a trauma center. So that's what we're looking at right now. We are told that the critical injury is not life-threatening, which is great news if true. But amazing to look at these pictures, to see an upside-down plane on a runway, a jet, and understand that maybe 9 people are injured, and we're hoping it's not more than that. A lot of questions. The airport's closed right now. There were winds gusting up to 27 miles per hour, which would be entirely manageable for a CRJ 900 like that. That would not be winds that would necessarily cause it to flip. And the kinds of planes I flew, if you had 27 mile per hour gusts, I wouldn't fly. But that's not in and of itself the danger. Whether the wind caught it and the wing caught some snow, or there was ice on the runway, it might be in concert with other things that the wind was a factor. But the weather is definitely a factor there. There's a lot of snow, to the extent that even the city of Toronto has said it might take weeks to get that city cleared of the snow that it's got right now. So the weather's probably the most likely factor at the moment.
Ali, do we know if there were cancellations in and out of the airport at the time of this incident?
I don't know yet, and I know this plane was coming in a little bit late, and it showed as delayed. Typically, when there is the kind of weather you've got in Toronto like this, you see departure delays because they're de-icing all the planes. When it's that cold, they have to de-ice the planes. So you'll see an airport. It's like an airfield. It's like much bigger than a football field, just full of planes waiting to take off. So you often have departure delays. We did not know of any incoming delays. I've seen some questions raised on social media about should the airport have even been open. It's important to remember this is Canada's biggest airport. It's a major hub, not just for Canada, but for international flights and for American flights. So pressure on airports to stay open it tends to be high. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, airports tend not to close. Even after DCA, after that plane crash at Reagan National, remember one of the first things they announced is they'll be open at 11 o'clock the next morning. So the airport is now closed, by the way. It's fully closed because they need to investigate, and they need to make sure that if it was weather or wind, or they surmise that it might be, these investigations take a long time. They want to make sure that doesn't happen twice. So I don't know that there were delays coming in. I know there were delays getting out.
Jeff Gazzetti joins us as well. Jeff, just pick up where Ali has left off about what questions you have as an investigator.
Well, it really is striking to me that we have yet another major airline event, and this one appears to be very serious because it's lying upside down without its wings. So you know something very traumatic must have happened, and it is really a miracle that there were no fatalities. Fingers crossed on the critically injured person. We hope these serious